orientation. If you want, again, there's an exclusive 1 hour session can be conducted exclusively to talk about these service-oriented design principles. As I wanted to give you both glimpse of SOA and REST, I'll try to provide those are the design principles. Just to cover up, a service is called service-oriented if these 8 design principles are applied to a meaningful extent. Okay. Now coming back to the REST, again, if you are novice to the REST, if you are never worked on the REST, I would recommend again reading 2 books called REST API. One is published by O'Reilly and the other one is called RESTful Web Services. So these 2 are the books basically which will provide you a good kickstart on the web. Okay. So what is REST? Basically, REST stands for representational state transfer. Okay. The other thing also I want to talk about was how did this REST originated, the word. Just give me a second. I think. Yeah, the REST originated basically. There was a professor called Roy Fielding. In his doctoral research, basically in his research during his doctorate program during 2000, basically he invented this word called representational state transfer, or basically REST services. He was the principal author of HTTP specification 1.0 and 1.1, and later it was developed by W3C Technology Architecture Group in parallel with HTTP 1.1. So just to summarize, it's all started during 2000, and then later W3C picked up as part of Technology Architecture Group, and then they worked on this REST. Okay. Now moving back ahead, so basically I wanted to talk about something on REST service design constraints. See, again, if you look at anything, there's always a specification, there's always something called implementation. The implementation is more specific to a technology, and always whenever I try to give any information, I always talk about more on the specification. So it can be any service as long as they follow these design constraints, it's still called as a RESTful service. So if let's say if the technology is written in C++, okay, what I'm trying to point out is that if any service which follows these 5 characteristics, design characteristics, the first characteristic is basically a client server. So what do you mean by client server? Basically, client should be independent, the server should be independent. So basically, everyone is aware of it. Then the second principle, what I'm trying to say is that it should be stateless. Any resource what you are trying to export should be stateless. Third thing is, when a server sends a data to client, there should be a mechanism where the server can say that use a cache data from your client. Okay. Third, it should be layered system. Client should not be aware of that it is communicating to which server. In between there can be multiple, again, services could be introduced. That's called a layered system. The fourth, basically which talks about uniform contract or uniform interface. So the uniform interface, basically there are 4 guiding principles of uniform interfaces. You should be able to identify a resource by something unique ID. Okay, that's one principle. The second thing is basically the message should be self-descriptive. The third principle is it's called HETIOS, hypermedia as an engine of application state. What is trying to say is basically clients make state transitions only through actions, okay, that are dynamically identified within hypermedia by the server. So what he's trying to say is that whenever you make a request for the server will give you, in case we need more information, the server provides those links, what are those, how you can get those information. And the last part is basically the code on demand. So what this is trying to say is servers can temporarily extend or customize the functionality of a client by transfer of executable code. What it's trying to say is that if server wants to execute extra code, you should be able to send that extra code to the client, and the client should be able to execute it. As long as these 5 characters can be implemented by any technology, it can be C++, anything. As long as these can be implemented, okay, then it's called RESTful service. However, what is happening is in the industry, the communication of World Wide Web like HTTP using HTTP exhibit most of these design principles. Because of that, we use HTTP as a mechanism for RESTful services. Remember that HTTP is not the only way. You can build your own algorithms to implement these design characteristics. Still it can be called as a RESTful services. So that's about the REST design principles, and basically those are the 5 guiding principles for any RESTful service architecture. So just to again, I want to emphasize here is that technology is not the which will decide what is RESTful service. Okay, technology can be anything as long as it adheres to those 5 fundamental principles. Okay, client server, stateless, cacheable, layered system, and uniform interface. That will make any service called a RESTful service. Moving on to the REST URI. REST basically, when you talk about it, as it, one of the fundamental principles was saying that uniform interface. When I say uniform interface, each resource should be identified by unique URI, any ID. So that ID is nothing but called as URI. Okay, basically uniform resource identifier. So if you look at it, there are multiple things are there. If you look at, there is scheme, there's the authority, there's a path, there's a query, there's a fragment. So if the first part, basically the HTTP is a URI scheme, and the abc.com is an authority. So basically the employees is a path. So what this URI is trying to do is trying to get the list of employees, okay, and where the employee belongs to something department ID as 1, and also it is looking for a second page. It is requesting for a second page. So if you look at it, if you are looking anything, whatever you request after the query parameter is called as fragment. Anything after the question mark is called as query. The path is nothing but in a way the service name. The authority is abc.com, and the scheme name is HTTP. So this is about the URI. So moving on, when you are designing a URI, there are multiple guidelines exist. Like a few of the guidelines are basically URIs prefer nouns to verb, and keep the URI as much as short, because I mean most of the browsers, some of the browsers at least have a 4 kilobytes as the limit, and REST URI should not be constructed by client. Again, this is one of the HETIA's principle. So what we are trying to say is that, let's say if you get the list of employees, in that result pretty much you should get, if you want to get the individual employee detail, you will get the hyperlink in that result only. I'll try to demonstrate these through some of the EMC best practices in my further slides. Okay, and then use redirection when you really need to change it. Again, I do have some kind of a pattern which talks about this, when the redirection should be used across within the REST services, which will be covered in further few slides. Okay, so I talked about REST design principles. I also talked about REST URI. Now, when you are communicating the REST services, there is always something called media types. So when you are communicating with any service, the service may send the various types of data. So some of the data which I have tried to list here was one of the, we use a lot of Atom feeds. There's another pretty much which is standard is basically JSON. Another standard one is the XML. So the REST supports various media types. Some few of them only I have listed here. That's what it is. Now the question arises, yes, the SOA has 7, there are those 8 design principles are there. REST has its own design principles, those 5 characters like client server, stateless, cacheable, uniform interface, code on demand, layered system. So what is REST and what is SOA, and should we use any one? The question arises in most of the developers and architect minds saying that is SOA is better, is REST is better, or should I use both? So though it looks like both the service-oriented architecture and the REST appears as 2 distinct architecture styles, but we do not have to select any one. Okay, basically, if you look at SOA, SOA has a lot of business goals like increase return ROI, business and technology alignment, reduce IT burden, increase federation. But REST goals are more of technology centric and can help to solve strategic or tactical business goals. remember that again, REST is a one kind of a technology or a media to implement SOA. Okay, so SOA can be implemented using web services. SOA can be implemented using C++. SOA can be implemented in using Visual Basic. Any technology is immaterial. So REST acts like one of the technology media to implement SOA principles. So bottom line, there are no conflicts between REST and SOA. They complement each other. In fact, in our product, which I'm working on, the storage resource management product, it is built on service-oriented architecture principles. Okay, but we expose all our services using REST technology. So they complement each other. They are not competing each other. They are complementing each other, and that's the message I wanted to communicate it. Okay. Let me see any questions are there. No, I don't see any questions right now. Okay, so just to touch across, there are some common goals between SOA and REST. Basically, what ultimately both will try to, the design goals are: it increases the standardization, it increases the scalability, it increases the reusability, interoperability, vendor neutrality, and responsiveness to change. So when you combine, basically, if you implement SOA with REST, so these are the design goals which can be achieved by adopting SOA and REST. That's what I want to say. So moving on to the next slide is basically the REST design patterns. If you look at again, though I called it a REST as